Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, August 7th, 2025, and today we are talking about bringing a market gardener onto the property, time versus the market gardener, and if you care about the environment even a little bit, you will probably stop using AI. So let's do it. All right, good Thursday to you all. I hope everyone is cruising nicely into August, managing whatever it is you all are managing right now. The heat is back a bit here, but I'm hardened off at this point, so we're cruising along. Got 5 or so beds that don't know it yet, but they will be prepped today and planted over the next couple of days to lettuce, more fall carrots, beets, and more. I may put my hair down a little bit, throw some baby kale or something in there just for goofs. I'm in the mood to party a bit this fall, it seems. Some quick random things. Don't forget that Dan Brisebois' Seed Farmer podcast has launched a new season, which is super exciting. You can subscribe to the Seed Farmer wherever you get podcasts. If you have even a vague interest in seed production, you will love his work. Also, check out his book by the same name, The Seed Farmer. It's really good stuff. Love Dan and appreciate everything he does. Don't forget to get your video clips into us. We love to see those gardens and those harvests. So if you've got something you're proud of in those gardens or coming out of those gardens, even a small win from this year, shoot it over to farmermike@notillgrowers.com. We'd love to share it. Love hearing from people all over the world. That is super, super neat. I think yesterday we had both Alabama and Australia, and I don't know that happens very often, just that those two things kind of come up in the same few seconds. I don't care if you submit more than once. Gardens change, harvests change. It's all fair game. All right, as has become tradition on Thursdays, we are going to get caught up on your Patreon questions. Patreon members, first, you rock. Second, the August show thread is there for the commenting, so get your questions in, and I will get to them as soon as I can on the show. I'm actually fairly caught up for once, so that's exciting, but also don't let me get so caught up that I run out of questions or themes. It's funny, the kind of balance that we have to strike here. Anyhow, today's first Patreon question comes to us from Cliff Palermo, who writes, quote, "We have a large market garden growing primarily flowers for direct-to customers in bouquets. Also have 8 4x 50-foot permanent raised beds for produce and have been playing with another 3,000 square feet of tilled and direct seeded beds. I have a full-time property management business and do the produce with quote-unquote free time. I'm looking at it now as a great opportunity for an ambitious person that would like to operate a market garden via a mutually beneficial agreement. Any experience with setting someone up for success on your property? A plus is I may be able to provide housing and would, of course, pay a salary as well. Just looking for direction on finding the right person. Thanks in advance," end quote. Okay, this is a really cool question, and I love the idea of people offering opportunities like this to other growers, even growers offering other opportunities to other growers or people that raise livestock or whatever. Any sort of collaboration like that is very cool because land is not very accessible right now and is decreasingly accessible. Increasingly less accessible, however you'd say that, for the people who would love to do this work. I'm sure you will at least get a handful of people who comment on this video with little hands up emojis because they'd be interested. And of course, don't hesitate to put opportunities like this up over at the No-Till Growers forum at notillgrowers.com. I can't guarantee any takers, but you never know. Or you may meet some people in the area who could help you out. For finding someone who might want to do this, you can also just go mention it at the farmer's market. You may find someone looking for an opportunity through mutual friends of farmers, and they can set you up with someone to chat with. Farmers often have the beat on what other farmers and previous workers are up to. That can be a good way to find potential takers. In terms of setting that person or persons up for success on your property, the first thing I would say is that there cannot be an ounce of ambiguity to the agreement, especially if they are going to live there. Workers are one thing because a job is relatively easy to lay out. Being a landlord for an employee is a whole different thing because then there becomes other responsibilities for their living area that may need to be met as well. Who takes care of what expenses, mowing, repairs, bills, whatever. So for me, I would actually separate these two things contractually and lay out everything you expect of them and everything you are offering so there is clarity on both sides. Also, I would separate the housing from the employment. In other words, offer the housing, but if you intend to rent it to them, don't take it out of their paycheck. Rather, set up a different system so they are paid as an employee, and if they want a place to stay, again, if you are intending to rent it, but maybe you're just intending to give it to them, which is also awesome, then they can pay a potentially reduced rent. This will keep them from feeling stuck there in their job because they moved there and they've moved all their stuff. And anyway, it keeps the transaction super clean and simple. In that vein, protect yourself, but also protect them. A lot of times farm workers or managers are younger and don't have experience looking out for their own interests or necessarily what could go wrong. Demonstrate that you are the kind of employer who will look out for them, and those workers will likely stick around for longer, and tell others it's a safe, fun place to work, which will help you down the line is if you ever need to replace them. Also, for yourself, make sure you put together a whole project breakdown, what the gig is, what it pays, what the goal is, and then do your own enterprise budget, i.e. what is it going to cost for this to start up, and then what will it cost on a yearly basis. I don't want to gloss over the goal there, though. Are you simply looking to boost your own offerings to your flower farm, or are you hoping to incubate farmers, or possibly both, I suppose, or neither? Having all those details and that entire vision laid out will help you to narrow down exactly what you are willing and wanting to offer. So to recap, you need to lay out the plan and budget and get the contract together for the living space and the contract for the job itself. Start there. Then you and that farmer can work out some of the details of what you all can do together, because there's a lot of potential there. To be sure, I think this sounds like a cool opportunity. We have not done this ourselves on our farm, but Hannah and I did have a couple opportunities similar to this when we were first starting out that we didn't take, and kind of regretted, honestly, because we were so fixated on owning our own land that we made the journey to actually owning our own land and running our own farm harder than it had to be by trying to go it alone and with almost no startup capital and enough experience. So maybe working off of somebody else's property with some experience like yourself would have been a better opportunity for us. Anyway, great question, and I hope all this comes together for you. I am thinking that maybe next week I will do a whole segment on bringing on an employee, because I've learned some good tidbits over the years that might be helpful to market gardeners helping to grow their business. For now, I'll let the comments section add their insights, as always, for tomorrow's Feedback Friday. Otherwise, when we come back, time in market gardening. BRB.
Hey nerds, Steve from Seattle. I'm at Ricardo P. Patch, which is a community gardening space in the city of Seattle. It dates from 1973, so it makes it the oldest one in Seattle. I have a plot here, which I garden, so I'll give you a look around. I'm also in Jesse's MLS league as the Crow Keepers, which is the perennial third place team, but that's okay. Anyway, hope you all are great.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Kyle Putnam, who writes, quote, Rando Convo Fodder, does having a year-round garden make time speed up? This year is going by so fast, end quote. All right, Kyle, love this. This is fun because I agree that time does seem to speed up depending on what you are doing. And in this case, farming year-round seems to have sped up time for you, and I feel that. But in other ways, I feel like nothing has, at least for me personally, slowed time down more than farming. I believe that the fastest time ever moved for me was when I was in a very predictable job that I did every day and nothing much ever changed or challenged me. And to be clear, I liked this job. It wasn't unenjoyable. It was just very predictable, and I would look up and another year would have passed, and then another year, and then another year. And I don't feel that way so much anymore since I started farming. I think part of that is that farming is just so incredibly varied on a day-to-day basis. There is a new challenge or riddle to solve almost every morning under different conditions: rain, heat, cold, wind, excess fatigue, excess coffee, and so on. Throughout history, spiritual leaders and whole religions have centered their teachings on the idea of being present. And I think one thing that gets overlooked in that is purposely living a life that forces the type of near constant presence that farming and gardening does. It is hard to not be quote unquote present in market gardening because your brain is constantly stimulated. It's harder to set your body to task and allow time to just melt away because new tasks pop up almost all the time, and especially on a daily basis. Now, I will say that there's a version of farming and even times in market gardening that is very repetitive. And for some people, there's a lot of comfort in that, including myself. I sometimes like to just be packing lettuce and listening to a podcast. I likewise find some comfort in not always having to make a decision, that every week I have to seed lettuce on the same day, cut it on the same day, and so on. But for me, I think nothing has quite slowed the passing of time like growing food in a difficult climate with difficult soils because, well, in part, you become so aware of time with farming because so much of farming is based on time of year, time of day, the amount of time a certain task takes. In the same way the human body is accustomed to a constant battle with gravity that we never really think about, right? We're not always falling down at 32 feet per second. The mind is often in a constant battle with time that it never thinks about until it has to. We never think about the passing of time until we are on a deadline to get a certain crop in or out of the ground. We never think about the passing of time until we see the spring rapidly approaching and need to get the gardens cleaned up, beds prepped, seeds started. In other words, we never think about our constant battle with time until we put ourselves in a position to constantly have to be thinking about it, which I believe farming does. Almost all the time. I also, however, can see how it would happen that working all the time would make time disappear because time is always going to be somewhat elusive. I have always felt like time is not some, linear collection of moments, but the observation of a biological process, life, growth, death, consumption, waste, all of it happening all at once. And what we call time is just us getting to witness that. So what better way to engage with time than growing food? To observe that biological process, engage with it up close, and to some extent control it. I even think this has helped me to never feel like my kids are getting too big too fast, things like that. Like farming has helped me to not just be more present more often in my own life, but to simply live that way kind of all the time. It's cheating perhaps, but I enjoy my biological process. It's kind of a nerd thing. Anyway, fun topic, and I rather enjoyed pontificating on time there for a minute. If you have topic ideas, feel free to put them in the August show thread, Patreon members. Otherwise, drop your thoughts on time and farming in the comment section, and we will get to that tomorrow. At what point in your life has time moved the fastest, the slowest? What are your observations? All right, we'll talk about that on Friday. Up next, speaking of things moving way too fast, we'll talk a little AI. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. We know it's peak season, you're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free, instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access today at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, our final Patreon question of the day comes to us from Miriam Cantaloupe, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, very much related to what you said about chefs using AI to create imaginary menus instead of asking young chefs to come up with innovative ideas based on a set of prompts. I'm a musician and educator who teaches children but also young teachers. It blows my mind that edu influencers and edu companies peddling AI are pushing teachers to just use AI to create lesson plans, create slide decks, etc. A shortcut to filling students' heads with misinformation," and they say, parenthetically, IMO, in my opinion, and cutting out one of the most rewarding parts of being an educator, planning what you're going to do with students every day, not worth the environmental costs, end quote. All right, so I can't speak to the education sector of the world and their use of AI, and teachers have a really hard job, an increasingly hard job. But my concerns about AI and just the sheer lack of regulation and thought around it in terms of what people should and should not be using it for has been on my mind quite a bit lately. Environmentally, AI uses multiple times more electricity and water compared to a classic Google search, 10 to 30 times more, Google itself tells me. Quoting an MIT news article on the subject, quote, "The power needed to train and deploy a model like OpenAI's GPT-3 is difficult to ascertain." In a 2021 research paper, scientists from Google and the University of California at Berkeley estimated the training process alone consumed 1,287 megawatt hours of electricity, enough to power about 120 average U.S. homes for a year, generating about 552 tons of carbon dioxide. In terms of water, water is needed to both cool the servers which are used, they themselves generate a significant amount of heat, and also in many cases to cool nuclear plants or perhaps the evaporation from hydroelectric plants used to make the additional electricity the servers are using. So effectively, depending on the data centers, the conditions that day, and the searches and the power source, a handful of searches cost something like a bottle of water. And those bottles add up when you are talking hundreds of millions of users. Now, these data centers and AI models are likely to become more and more efficient, but I was introduced to an economic phenomenon recently, which makes me feel worse about that, not hopeful. It's called the Jevons paradox, where essentially more efficiency can lead to more use of a resource and not less of it. Now, it's not a bulletproof concept, but basically back in the later 1800s, William Stanley Jevons recognized that more efficient steam engines led to a higher coal consumption rather than less of it, i.e., rather than the conservation of coal, it meant we used more coal because we had more efficient engines. Basically, like it was with cars, as engines became more efficient, people didn't travel less, they traveled more and further. So gas and coal usage effectively increased, or at least returned to pre-efficiency levels. Or even when the cars are more efficient and the energy used in a lifetime is actually less, if the efficiency leads to lower costs or cost savings, the family may buy a second car and drive more, thus leading to greater usage of that resource, and so we return to the paradox. To be clear, there are improvements in efficiency that do lead to energy savings, but there are others, like perhaps with refrigeration, where people now buy more refrigerators and then more food, leading to more food waste. So it's not cut and dry, this paradox, but it is interesting. And in researching this segment, I found out that AI people really love the Jevons paradox because they seem to amusingly misunderstand it. Microsoft's CEO, for instance, wrote on social media, quote, "Jevons paradox strikes again. As AI gets more efficient and accessible, we will see its use skyrocket, turning it into a commodity we just can't get enough of." Well, yes, that will happen, but also the point of the paradox is that with the increased usage of the tool, in this case AI, will come with the increased usage of all the energy and water we don't have enough of. The paradox isn't about if efficiency will make the tool more accessible and easier to use. The paradox is about the fuel, in this case electricity and water, and the loss of carbon used to run said tool. Gains in efficiency will lead to more use of the tool, thus the fuel. To me, frankly, AI needs some very swift and very profound regulation established, or we are careening towards environmental catastrophe, and not to mention social disaster as people, lose the ability to do basically anything for themselves, if I'm allowed my grumpy old man moment. I believe that large language models have a place in science, research, medicine, astronomy, those sorts of things, areas where crunching massive data sets can help lead to, for instance, earlier cancer detection or finding potentially dangerous asteroids or better security, whatever. It should not be used, to name a few, for art, music, writing papers, literature, Google searches, or basically anything for the average person. We do not need generative AI or large language models open to the public. We cannot use it responsibly. It's a massive copyright infringement, and it's going to gravely complicate the future for our children environmentally and just in their problem-solving skills. I was listening to a podcast the other day about how frustrated a climate scientist was because anytime they want to even test a slightly new idea or technology, it requires innumerable meetings and ethics conversations and research into possible concerns about the test itself, and then AI/large language models and so on. That was all just a bunch of dudes in Silicon Valley releasing a massive environmental and social problem onto the planet with absolutely no real oversight. That is frustrating. We protect and encourage those who do the worst things for our health and the health of our planet, and we stifle basically anyone else who tries to help. This is going to be a hard thing to explain to our children. Now, do teachers deserve and probably need more assistance with their lesson plans and such? Almost certainly. But also, there are going to be tens of billions of people put out of work by various AI programs. So maybe some of the taxes we put on those companies who get rid of their workers for AI programs, also part of my regulatory suggestions, can go to paying teachers more and supplying them with more help for their lesson plans. Just an idea. Anyway, what was the question? Kidding. But I am going to leave it there for you all to tackle in the comments. Otherwise, TTYL Thursday. Don't forget, No-Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work and also get a cool thing. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of August, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Jojo. Nice. I don't think we have enough JoJos in our Patreon members. All right, so our 11-year-old Douglas is making his way down the stairwell that he found behind the hidden door on the floor of the forest, by the creek, by his house. You will remember this, a sudden August snowstorm and all that stuff. But anyway, Douglas freezes, not literally, when he hears adult voices talking about how big they had just screwed up, which Douglas surmises must be in reference to the snow event, which seems like if it was an accident, it was a big accident. And then he hears one of the adults say, "Guys, someone is on the stairs." And suddenly he can hear them running towards him and outpacing him up the stairs as he tries to make his way back up. But unfortunately, Douglas trips and bangs his knees and his elbows really badly on these kind of like weird metal stairs that he's running up, causing both his elbows and his knees to bleed. Gets a nice big cut there. Soon he feels a hand on his shoulder, and a man says, "Oh, great, it's a kid. We got to clean him up." Then they lead Douglas down the stairs to their office, where Douglas sees something no one was supposed to see. What? That is for tomorrow on Snowbird. Or is it? Yeah. Thanks for watching and/or listening. We'll see you then. Bye.
Toyota's national sales event is happening now with great deals on a wide range of cars, like a sporty new Camry or stylish Corolla, both available with all-wheel drive. Visit buyatoyota.com for more. Toyota, let's go places.